Welcome to Land Academy. This is the Cash Flow from Land show, where we show you how to buy unwanted vacant land and sell it for more on the internet. I'm Steve Butala.
I'm Jill Dewit.
We are your hosts. With over 15,000 completed transactions, we are the experts in this niche land flipping business.
Whether you are looking to buy your dream property for half price, start your own real estate business, or create a passive income so you can enjoy the lifestyle you've always dreamed about, you have found the right place.
By the way, we hold a drawing for a free property every single month. Enter to win the land by rating this show on iTunes and downloading our free ebook at landacademy.com.
All right, let's get this thing started.
Seth Williams of retipster.com says it only takes a teaspoonful of work to be really successful in this business. Seth Williams is an experienced land investor, commercial real estate banker, and residential income property owner. He is also the founder of retipster.com, a real estate investing blog providing real-world guidance for part-time real estate investors. Seth, it is always great to have you on the show. And I'm super excited today. It's our new show. Jill's with us also.
Hey, Seth.
And, hey, Jill.
It's wonderful to have you because you are probably the only person that we've had on the show or that I know of that where we have really similar business models. I think we've gotten to the places where we are in a little different way.
Yeah.
But I think it's a treat for our listeners because it's important to talk a little bit about where we've gotten and how we do things on a day-to-day basis. So it's great to have you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Steve. Glad to be here.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So tell us who you are in the land flipping industry and kind of explain or re-explain the niche that you and I share.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, I've been working as a land investor for, probably 7-ish years now. And I've really just been doing it kind of on a part-time basis. I still have a sort of a regular person with a full-time job and all that, but I've been doing this since about 2008. And I kind of stumbled across it that after trying to sort of do things the way that everybody else was doing it, just looking for houses and, trying to, flip houses and that kind of thing. And everything I would look at on the MLS, it would never make sense. Like the numbers would just never add up. And I was just like banging my head against the wall, trying to figure out like, how does anybody do this? Like, I don't get it. I don't want to risk my life savings to buy a property that just turns into a disaster and I lose everything. And I couldn't make it work. And when I finally discovered the land investing niche, it was just like, man, this is just like everything that I've needed in a real estate investing niche. And I couldn't believe that more people hadn't, jumped on board and started doing the same kind of thing because it just made a lot of sense from a lot of different angles. And I've just been buying properties. And typically the people that I've been trying to focus on have been people who are delinquent on their property taxes.
Yeah.
And I think you probably do that to some extent, but I think you guys do a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yes.
Do more, yeah. And I guess it just goes to show like there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat when it comes to this. But it's been really, really an effective way to buy properties for like pennies on the dollar. And it involves very little risk on the investor's end. And you can turn around and sell them usually relatively quickly. And it's been a really good way for me to make money in real estate.
Excellent. I just right before I got on the call with you, I was reviewing the comments on our podcast, on our blog, on the website, on Land Academy website,
mm-hmm.
and somebody just said in there, I had no idea. I had no idea that this existed. I've been trying almost a slightly different version of what you just said. I've been trying to flip houses and it costs money. I'm trying to source money and do all this stuff all at once. I had no idea you could flip land like that. So,
mm-hmm.
And it's so much cheaper. Like Jill and I have said this a million times. It's one of the biggest issues that we have is having people say, we just don't believe you.
Right.
That is just a shame. Yeah. I've heard the same thing on a number of occasions, and it's kind of thing where it's like, I don't know. It's too bad for them, but it's true, and we've been doing it. We've got plenty of examples of other people who have done it when they just sort of paid attention and implemented the the advice, and it works. It's just a matter of having some faith in the process and being willing to get your feet wet.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So who are you? And tell us a little bit about RE Tipster. It's picked up a huge amount of steam. You are the organic search guru. That's what I call you around the office. I don't know how you drive traffic the way that you do without spending any money. I think it's just I'm in awe. I mean it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's taken a lot of work, but yeah, really the premise behind the blog is it's kind of born out of my own struggles and frustrations with trying to figure out real estate investing in the beginning. Like I just finding the land investing niche by itself like took a lot of work and a little bit of luck just to even know about it. And then once I knew about it and got started, like that entered this whole new realm of all these other new questions and how do I get past this obstacle and how do I do that? And there were a lot of questions I had in the beginning, a lot of places where I got stuck and almost kind of felt hopeless. And it was just a matter of, continuing to pursue and just push through those obstacles. And really what my goal has been with the blog is just to create, a resource that explains a lot of those problems to people and how I was able to maneuver through them. And it's not necessarily that my way is like the only way or the number one right way. It's just kind of the way that made sense to me and the way that it worked. And and I think it's the kind of thing where a lot of those answers just aren't out there. And I'm trying to just, give people some options so that if somebody's Googling, how do I value this piece of land or how do I, what's a perk test? How do I do that? I mean, all these just random things that you come up in the land investing business, and they're just not good answers, and I'm trying to offer that to the world. So
again, that's a similarity between the entity that you have and the one that Jill and I have. We started Land Academy to answer those questions, and it ultimately led to over a lot of years. I've been in this since the 90s. A lot of years. I've had students for as long back as I can remember, and members/students. But it only recently did we release this education comprehensive package where I try to answer just about all those questions, or at least the beginner questions, in one single place kind of thing. So, yeah.
And you guys are both great writers, by the way. I've read both of your writing and posts out there, and every time I'm like, man, this is good stuff. So I hope you keep doing it.
Thank you, Seth. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Jill's really the writer. I just she writes all my stuff, and I put my name on the bottom of it.
Is that how it works?
No, but I might proof a few of them. We'll leave it at that.
Sure. Yeah. You can never get enough proofreading. I know that's actually one thing I've noticed in some of the blog posts of mine that I guess have gotten the most traction is like I've come back to them like at least a dozen times over the years and just like reread them and like, oh, that doesn't sound right. You sort of tweaked them a little bit, and that can go a long way just in terms of being more readable and, easily relatable to people and all that. So.
Right. So if you had to explain our niche in like, I don't know, 2 or 3 sentences, what would you say?
Oh man. Like a tagline for it or something, or just
sure. Whatever you think, like, buy low, sell high, or I don't know.
Yeah. I guess I hadn't really thought of that at the time. I might say it's just a really, maybe like a low risk way of getting access to really good opportunities that most of the world doesn't know about and will never know about because they're not looking in the right places.
Right.
And that kind of thing, that was really what just sort of shocked me the most at first. Was like, I can't believe it's even possible to get these kind of deals. Like I can't believe it's even out there, and that there's not like tens of thousands of other people all over these things. And it's I just kind of felt like I had this like secret access to this treasure trove of information. In a sense, you kind of do. It's just a matter of seeing the opportunity and pursuing it when nobody else does.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Well said. This is how I explained it to somebody recently because they kept pushing me for a better answer, and I said, look, we source and buy properties for $1,000 or less, and we sell them for $3,000 or $4,000 pretty quickly, usually immediately. And we do it a lot, many times every week, and that seemed to sink in with that person. It's just like a third grade level of description of what we do. But I think, is that about what you guys do, or is it a little bit different than that?
No, that sounds pretty much in line. Yeah, okay. I would agree.
What I think is interesting about all of our niche is that so many people don't understand that just because it's unimproved doesn't mean there's no value. It comes up a lot. I hear people that they think, but then when I have to do something with it. No, you don't. You don't have to put anything on it. You could still make money off it.
You just have to find it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the value that I really think we're bringing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, when you think about it, it's all about the margin. And I mean, you can get in it's just like buying really anything of value, whether it be a car or a piece of jewelry or whatever. I mean, if you could get that for like pennies on the dollar, then yeah, there's automatic built-in value, whatever it is.
Right.
That's kind of what land is. It doesn't mean you have to do anything. It just means you got in at the best possible price. So, yeah.
I've always said it's some version of this. Acquisitions, a good acquisitions program solves all sales issues. So if you buy a property for less than half of what it's worth, you're going to do fine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not hard to sell those.
Right. So, Seth, what makes you the expert? Do you have a very large following? Like I said earlier, your name comes up all the time, and people see you as an expert. What do you think?
Sure. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it just depends on what you call an expert. I wouldn't see myself as like this, all-knowing person who has all the answers to the world's problems or anything like that. But I mean, I think it's really just, maybe that I've just kind of stuck with it over the years. Like there's lots of other stuff that, can get in somebody's way and, kind of bring them off course and pull them off track. But I've just, land has sort of always been just a really obvious, very sensible strategy in terms of the opportunity there. And I've just sort of have kept doing it. And through doing that, I mean, it's just, you're going to learn a lot of stuff in that process. And I've been through a lot of the struggles and made a lot of the dumb mistakes, and just I mean, everything that a beginner could possibly go through. I've seen just about all of that, and I think if anything, maybe it's like my empathy. Like I just know what it's like to hurt and suffer in that realm, and I don't want people to have to do that if they don't have to. So I'm trying to just make it easier for people in any way I can. So.
Right.
I love that we've all made some really dumb mistakes in this, and that's okay. We won't do that happen again. It's going to happen. So, and I'm with you. That's like with our program. We thought, we're trying to help you. Like you're in your thing, our program, we try to lay a good foundation of all the things and help them along every little piece of, if you want to have this business or just want to buy a property, so we can save them some time. And Steve and I have often joked, boy, if this was available to us back then, can you imagine, Seth, if you were available to you, 10 years ago, wouldn't that have been great?
Yeah, I'm going to brag, but that would be amazing if I was available to me.
Exactly.
No, I totally agree. I saw a quote not long ago. It said, you want to know the difference between a master and a beginner? The master has failed more times than the beginner has ever tried.
Love it.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, pretty much. Well said.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So what deals are you working on right now? Give us a little taste.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on how you define a deal. I own about 4 right now. I've got 2 that are on seller finance notes. I'm usually in some form of negotiation on like 4 or 5 at any given time. And in terms of like leads that are just coming in the door, there's usually at least like a dozen that are kind of, on the table. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, I've learned, and I think you guys have probably learned too, it's pretty crucial to have just like more leads than you can handle. Just like lots and lots and lots and lots of people who want what you have to offer, because it allows you to sort of, you don't have to take something out of desperation. It's more like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense for me. I'll do that.
Right. A lot of it's a numbers game, but some of it's how you handle what comes in too,
Yeah.
Like you could have 100 deals come in and 20 of them are fantastic, but you're concentrating on the other 6 that don't make sense. So there's such a balance or a finesse to it, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's I mean, the way that a lot of my deals are coming in these days are through my website. Like I'd say almost all of them now. I used to rely really heavily on direct mail, and I still do when I'm trying to like target a specific area, just because that kind of gives me a lot of control from that standpoint. But There's just so much stuff coming in from the website. It's like, man, it's kind of hard to, work hard at other ways when I just have this built-in funnel already.
What do you attribute that to? Is it organic? What do you attribute the traffic to that website to?
Yeah, I know when I first, I waited a lot longer than I should have to get my website up and running. I was probably in business for like 3 or almost 4 years until I really did that, just on terms of the acquisition side of it. But back when I did it, it was, I had actually paid somebody to do some search engine optimization for me. And this was back in like 2011, I think, when that kind of thing still really was pretty effective. You could sort of kind of game the system and make it work that way. I think it can still work a little bit, but it's not nearly what it used to be. But that was kind of how my original streams of traffic started coming in back in the day. And I don't know why. It's maybe tapered off a little bit, but it's still there. So I don't know if somehow if people are bookmarking it or something or what. I don't know, but I'm still getting plenty of traffic. So
yeah, I think that you probably did whatever you were supposed to do back then, and then Google said yes. Yeah. And now it's, you're reaping the benefits from that, because I was told, I had a very lengthy conference call with an organic SEO expert, and they said it takes probably around 24 months if you're doing everything right, to really get some good traffic organically. Yeah. And Google's kind of set. So you started, before Google Analytics and all that, probably, right?
I think Google Analytics was still around. I will say when I had actually paid the money to get the SEO work, even then it was like 6 months or so until it really started happening. It wasn't like I did it and then the next day it was working. So, I mean, even back in those days, it took some patience. It wasn't just immediate results. I think today it takes a lot more maybe diversified strategy than just that. It's a lot of, creating content that people actually want to see. Yeah. Or there's actually, I think I heard from one SEO website, Google has something like 200 different metrics that they look at.
Yeah, I read that too.
Yeah. So it's like, there's a lot of different, it's not like just putting a video on the page is going to make it all better. Like there's a lot of different things that have to be done at least reasonably well. So.
Yeah, I read that, if you type something in like cheap land in Google, it runs around 200 algorithms to really make it, to make sense of that for what they think you want that to be. And a lot of it has to do with geography, your personal geography.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So that's, it's complicated. We relied on very well placed, consistent direct mail campaigns, where we, and I've fine-tuned it over the years, and we talk about this in our programs all throughout. We send actual offers with a number in the offer to see if the person wants to sell. We kind of cut to the chase, and I try to cut out the amount of ineffective responses that we get. Yeah. So that seems to be working well. We're still getting, Jill, back me up on this. We get multiple calls a day from mailers that we've sent out in the mid 2000s.
Oh, I love it. It's hilarious.
I get that too. It's kind of funny, I'm not going to complain, but it is funny how long it takes some people to
Isn't it? And I've had people say, I'm sorry it took me so long to get back to you. And it's like 8 years old. And it was like a little old lady, and it was the cutest thing. She said, if this is still kind of on the table, I promise my response won't take this long. And it was so cute. Yeah. So I have a question, Seth, on your buying criteria. Like, because it sounds like you're picky, and I appreciate that. Yeah. And your portfolio is not as, is I'm sure growing. Now, and what do you look for? Are you a big acreage? Are you anything and everything? What's your thing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say for the most part, I don't know if I've ever actually drilled it down that specifically and clearly and laid that out, but it's typically, stuff that would be, within a price range where I've got the cash and I can buy it. And I try to focus on states where I've worked before, like just places where I understand sort of the rules and the finer details of the law in those states. And if it's a huge, tract of land at a price I can afford, then yeah, absolutely, I'll get that. I've actually tried a little bit in recent years getting more into like the wholesaling aspect of it, like just getting the contract and selling the contract to people. And that's been interesting just in terms of the kind of different pros and cons that come along with that. Have you guys ever tried that? doing the
we call it optioning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
and there's a whole section in our initial education program about optioning, which I think is
I love it.
Everybody's got a different phrase for it, but I think what it is the original, no down, no cost approach to doing a real estate deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Some people call it wholesaling. Some people call it, we call it optioning.
Sure.
Yeah. Jill, you want to explain it?
Sure. I mean, it's basically someone will come to me with a property, and kind of like what you're talking about. If I have the cash and it's a great deal, I'm going to buy it. Sometimes I just want to build up my inventory or just see how it's going to work. And I will send out kind of a contract option agreement. Everybody, we know what their target, price is, and we all agree on that. And it's going to be 90 days or whatever. And then I'm going to go market it, and it often works. I usually don't take them on unless I really feel good that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I pretty much have one of my buyers in my back pocket anyway, that I know that this is perfect for this guy.
Sure.
This is all his stuff, so it's perfect. So it usually goes pretty fast. So I'll just send an agreement and they'll say yay, and I'll call my guy and I'll negotiate the deal, and then he sends me a check. Basically, I turn around, cash that check, buy her thing, and then deed gets passed on through the system.
Sure.
So it's really easy, and I love those.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
We just did an option. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do you guys, do you focus on like a few specific states, or is it just kind of like whatever? I don't care where it comes from, or I guess you're sort of targeting them, right? Because you got the direct mail thing. You can kind of get to choose where the leads are coming from.
But I never say no. I'm the one, usually Seth, that answers the calls when they come in, and there's no property I'm going to say no to, pretty much.
That's true of
it's
everything.
It's just going to be
Joe.
the right price.
People have Indian names like Dances with Wolves.
Yeah.
Jill's name is Can't Say No.
That's true. Wow.
So it could be, interesting.
There you go. We could take that a lot of different ways. In relating to business. No, but with the properties, and you know what, Seth, I'm not afraid of any state at all. Even if I don't know the state, for me, that's going to be a challenge to, all right, I'm going to figure this out, you know? And there are states and deals that we've had to get, attorneys involved because it's it has to be done a certain way and blah, 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 blah. Not afraid of it at all. If it's a good enough deal, I'm going to make it happen. I'll figure it out. So.
Yeah, that's really true.
I love acreage west of the Mississippi. So when I say acreage, I mean 5 acres or more. And then we try to cap it off at 40 acres, although she's working on some huge ranches in Texas right now.
Cool.
And those are great cash deals, some of them terms. But Northern Michigan Northern Michigan is always something that I'm like, man, next week I want to do that. And it just never happens. But we've done a ton of great terms transactions all throughout Northern Michigan.
Oh,
whatever reason, everybody loves to, vacation up there from Chicago and everywhere else in Detroit.
Yeah.
So
I found them to be pretty easy to sell for the most part. I think there's just a lot of kind of natural beauty in that part of the country. And it's not hard to make those look good to people.
That's great that you bring up sales. That's my next question. Is there some magic to how you sell property? Do you find it challenging, or, what's been your general experience with sales this day and age?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, there's probably plenty of things I could do better. But the process I'm typically going through is, just putting a reasonable amount of effort into creating a good listing with good pictures and a good description and good headline and all that. And then putting it places like Postlets and, at least a few different markets and Craigslist just to make sure it's getting in front of as many different eyeballs as possible. And that honestly, I like Backpage and that kind of thing too, but that's all I've really ever done. And I have enlisted realtors, I think twice ever. And in both of those cases, I was able to sell my land before the realtor was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, in one of those cases, I had to pay this realtor a commission just because I had signed the thing with them, even though I did all the work. And I was like, I'm never doing that again.
It's an exclusive agreement.
Yeah, was just
sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. You would think that. Yeah, you would think that a realtor, like, that's all they do. You'd think they would be able to do it faster than me, but I don't know if it's just because I care more or what. But I work hard to get those things sold, and it's usually doesn't take long, and it's not that hard.
Right.
Well, don't you find too, when people are calling me about properties, they are really happy to know that I'm not a realtor and I am the owner and I get to make the decisions. They're like, "Oh, it's nice."
Yeah.
And then we can negotiate right there. And
yeah,
it really helps.
Yeah, that's a huge deal when it comes to seller financing, that kind of thing, because you can, there's all kinds of things you can be like, well, if that's not affordable, why don't we change the rate or change the payment or the down payment? It's like, you can just make those decisions on the fly. That's very nice.
Bingo.
That's the definition of a private investor, where you're not really reporting to anybody.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. We're not knocking real estate agents. It's just the whole thing is set up differently. It's set up to every education experience that I've been exposed to when it comes to being a good, successful real estate agent. They all center around getting a ton of listings, playing the numbers game, and then relying on buy-side agents or brokers to sell the property for you. So really what you're doing is getting up in the morning and getting more listings. Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't it's counterintuitive from a client servicing thing perspective. So, and then the other point too is that, the higher dollar amount that the listing is, the more commission is. So the product that we sell is usually not that high dollar amount. So I just don't think there's a lot of motivation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. I've found the same thing. I think one of the properties I was trying to sell was like $8,000 or somewhere in that range. And I mean, just like you said, it's just not that big of a deal to them. It's not at the forefront of their priority list. So yeah, I guess in a way you can't blame them, but
I know. What's the commission on $8,000?
I think it's $800.
Yeah.
At 10%, it's $800, and then everybody starts splitting it from there.
Right. Yeah. Then it's no good. I wouldn't take it. If it were me, I wouldn't take it. So yep, it's true.
They probably just like Seth. That's what happened.
They feel bad.
Probably.
So what's the secret sauce, man? What's it take to get where you are? You obviously made it through the downturn. You started before that. What's the special deal about you?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's not like my life is perfect or anything, but it's really just, I would say, some element of focus. When I started, I knew a handful of other people who were getting started as well. And only like one of those people is still doing the same business. A lot of them just got sidetracked with other stuff and are just on to other things. And they found out, oh, this actually takes, a teaspoonful of work. And I'm not willing to do that. So they gave up. So, just being willing to stick with it. And I think one of the reasons I stuck with it was because I've like back when I was in college and just out of college, I tried all kinds of just random business things, and they were all very challenging and very hard. And I just realized, like, man, it's not easy to make money in this world. And when I found this, and the opportunity was so clear cut, and when I tried it and it worked so well, it's like, man, this is amazing. Like, this is something really special, and I've got to stick with this because it's not every day that you come across this kind of opportunity. So I think maybe just realizing how special it is, maybe.
I've been asking people for years to show me a better business model where we make about 50 annual year over year annual return of about 50% on the terms deals that we do. So if we pay $4,000 for a piece of property and we collect in payments, these are terms deals, to over $2,000, that's about a 50% return. Mm-hmm. And it's secured by real estate that I own free and clear, and it doesn't cost me anything to keep it running like a rental house. Mm-hmm. I'd love to see a better business model than that. And once it's on auto pay, so everybody pays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
So
it's kind of a slam dunk.
It is.
If anybody who's listening has a better business model than what I just described, I would love to know about it.
Yeah, me too. Let me know if you find out about it, because I want to hear about that.
I will.
Hey, Steven, I got to tell you, we just started this new thing, Seth, with our new revamped show here, and one of the things is we title it at the end, and I've already got the title, and I'm not going to tell you guys until the end because I just wrote down, I think, the awesome title for this podcast. So it's funny.
Is it Can't Say No?
No, it's not Can't Say No. It's Seth quote, and I'm not going to tell you until the end.
All right, great.
Okay,
cool.
All right, last question. So for somebody who's starting out, what would you suggest, Seth?
Well, yeah, I get that question from time to time. Something I've actually heard from quite a few people is, like I have no money. Like I've got like $50. What can I do to get started? And I mean, maybe you guys know of a different way, but personally, when I got started, I had at least a few $1,000s to work with, something where I could do a direct mail campaign, lock up a first property, buy it, sell it, and still kind of stay afloat. And I would say, just as far as I know, I would say if you have like no money, save up just a little bit, like maybe $3,000-ish. That was what I had. So if you got nothing, maybe just hang on for a few months if you can. And then, just get started with a direct mail campaign. Make sure you're getting the best quality data and you're filtering that, to the extent that, I guess the furthest you possibly can. And I remember my first few lists, like I spent hours and hours and hours going through that process. And it was kind of, especially when you haven't been through the whole process yet and you're like, man, is this really worth it? Like, this is just nuts. But when I finally did it and sent it out and the results came in, it was like, oh my goodness. It is so worth the trouble to do that and just to have faith in the process and just give it one solid try, doing everything right. And like, it's going to work out. You just have to make sure you're following the right process and doing everything.
Yeah. The last time that you and I spoke, I remember how you'd answered that question. It always stuck with me. You just can't give up,
Yeah.
It's almost not so much a matter of the money piece. It's just whatever obstacle you come across, just keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have talked to some people who, they've maybe done a direct mail campaign and something went wrong. They, I don't know, got the list from the wrong place or something didn't happen right. And it's I do kind of understand people who have done it and it just didn't go well, and they're like, man, I can't keep doing this. And at some point, you sort of need to see some results to keep faith in the process. But it just goes back to the first point of like, just do it right to begin with. Don't mess around. Just do the formula that works, and it's going to be fine.
In our material, we the direct mailing. I spent several hours in video talking about our direct mail process, and it's the same. Where we get our data is all very. It's been made very consistent, so no matter where you do this, and it's very scalable. So anywhere in the country, the data is the same. It's from the same source. It's from First American Title. Mm-hmm. And then I very, very clearly walk step by step about how to send a mailer out. And we just had two people on the show. The shows haven't aired yet. Two Land Academy members. They both have an initial response on the first mailing that they sent out of more than 25%.
Awesome.
Wow.
So
that's amazing.
That's for every 100 mailers they send out, they've received 25 people calling back saying they're interested.
Right.
Yeah. No, that does not happen without doing something very right.
Yeah.
Whatever you're teaching, it's working.
Yeah. So I think it can be, I think the first step in all of this is getting educated. And I'm not saying spend tens of thousands of dollars getting educated. I'm just saying, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make in any real estate, starting a real estate career, is going out and getting a deal and then asking everybody if I should do the deal. I think you've got to get organized and get that data mindset where it needs to be, and then start looking at some deals. Get educated.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think? Can't say no.
Huh. Thanks a lot. That's not the title. That will not. He's done that to me too. Oh my gosh. Talking about throwing somebody under the bus.
Yeah.
Is Steve just that guy?
It's mutual. It's just Jill. It's just Jill's turn in the barrel today, because this is what I said. You know what? This is what I said to my staff like 3 days ago. I said, Jill thinks that my grammar and my writing skill is at about the 3rd to 4th grade level. So I'm just all letting you know that before you edit my stuff and look at it, that's about where she thinks it is. And you know what the staff said? It's not. It's more like the 6th or 7th grade level. Oh. And so now now I'm in that box.
It's quite the compliment.
I'm a 7th grade level writer.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's I've actually heard that's like the best, level to write at, because that's what, the average person in society reads or understands and thinks in that level. So, yeah. And of course there's people. Yeah, there's people out there who are more advanced than that, but even they can understand that level as well. So it kind of applies to everybody. So
that's funny.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I spelled grammar wrong, and that's how it all started.
It did. It was the funniest thing, I got to tell you. Edit this for my grammar, and the employee looked at me and said, "What do I do with that?" I said, "I'm not going to touch it. You do what you want with that. I am not going to touch it."
Oh, Seth, it was wonderful having you on the show. What's coming up? Give us a taste of what's happening that's new with RE Tipster and what's fresh. And it's always, your blogs are always so fresh and detailed. Is there anything new coming up?
Yeah, thanks. Really, man, 2015 has been just a crazy year for me, just in terms of, like, it's probably been the busiest year of my life. I feel like I keep saying that and thinking it's going to get better, and it never does. So,
yeah.
But 2015, yeah, I'm really just trying to get through this year with my head still on without going nuts. But I've got a few good blog posts coming up. I got one that I'm working right now about perk testing, and it's been about, like, I don't know, 10 or 12 hours on that. But do you guys ever deal with perk tests? Is that something you ever encounter? Or
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. And in the desert out here, which is where we do the vast majority of the transactions, it just doesn't. I'm from Michigan, by the way, but it's just not as pertinent as it usually is.
Less of an issue out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Michigan, I've run into it several times, just because it's all about, like, in order to put a septic system there, the soil has to perk, which means basically the water has to drain through it at a certain rate, or a septic system won't work there,
right,
which means you can't build on it, which, can sabotage the value of a property.
Sure.
So basically, for those who do encounter that issue, I'm trying to explain, what is a perk test? How do you find out as inexpensively and as quickly as possible whether a property perks or not?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I've been working on this past weekend. But
that question,
go ahead.
That question comes up for us, and this is how I answer it. There are so many alternative ways to deal with water and waste management in this day and age. All you got to do is go on Google and look for alternative to septic. I get a lot of blind phone calls from salespeople. A few years ago, I got on a list. Somehow, I didn't do it on purpose, but about these systems, and man, it's amazing for a small amount of money what you can do to improve property and actually exist on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually learning it has a lot to do with the health department in every county, because that's kind of who governs what's allowed in terms of septic systems. But yeah, you're certainly right. I mean, there's a lot of alternative ways you can usually solve that problem if it does come.
I have an easy way to solve that problem. Move on to another property.
Exactly. That is the easy way.
I mean, really.
Jill just said no.
I didn't say no. I said I'm going to say yes over here and let that one go.
Okay, Jill, it's time. Tell us what the title is, and we'll pipe in too.
I love this. Okay, a teaspoonful of work. That is
easy enough, right?
Oh my gosh, that is so the title. You're exactly right.
Yeah, how to do this with a teaspoonful of work by Seth. I think it's awesome.
All right.
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you.
See if it works.
Yay.
Seth, it's great to have you on the show as always. Before we started, Jill and I said, this could work out to be, because our models are so similar, it could work out to have you on as a regular guest. We'd love to do that. If
that'd be cool. I'd like to be back on at some point. It'd be awesome.
Hey, I know it's Sunday too, and thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on, and appreciate talking to you guys. And yeah, best of luck to you in your business.
Thank you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good.
Bye.
See ya.
That was so much fun.
It really is such a treat to speak with him, and I mean that from my heart. He has just weathered the storm, and he kind of sells himself short a little bit, I think.
No,
but man, what a talented guy, and just
Do you know what?
Nothing negative to say at all about him.
Well, as I'm hanging up, I'm like, I need to promote him a little bit more. He's really good. So let me back up. It's a teaspoonful of work by Seth Williams. We need to get that out there. It's not just Seth. It's Seth Williams. And he is really great at what he does.
Yeah.
And he has really getting to where he is, this level, in his knowledge and what he does and his following and his writing and he's got a great fan base, all while having his regular daytime full-time job and family and a life. I mean, is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And he takes on some stuff. That stupid the perk text thing. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah,
that's a project.
The people, he sends a lot of referrals to us from Land Academy referrals, people who are interested in getting the business, and he sends them to us because we can take it a little further, I think, than he has it from an education standpoint. Mm-hmm. And they all have some version of this to say. If I only, absorb 10 or 20% of what this guy really talks about in depth, mm-hmm. I feel like I'm really winning. Mm-hmm. I'm ahead. So he's very, very brainy and takes that almost engineering approach to this business, which I really appreciate.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And you know what the big picture is? Happy to promote him. I'm sure he's happy to promote us. There's enough land to go around.
Oh, yeah.
We're all going to be just fine. We can all work together and all do very well.
Yeah.
So, mm-hmm.
A teaspoonful of effort. Is that what it is called?
A teaspoonful of work. He said, oh, I thought that was the best thing ever. I'm like, oh, I got to write that down. So he's like, when he talked about getting into this business and watching his friends, that's what I took from it, and this and that. And then he said, when I started to do it and test it, I'm like, oh, gee, it takes a teaspoonful of work. This is the greatest thing ever,
Mm-hmm.
So
excellent.
Mm-hmm, I love that. So that was super fun.
I thanked him because it is Sunday. Mm-hmm. I'm thanking you. There's lots of other stuff that we all could be doing, especially at this point in our career, all silliness aside.
True.
There's a lot of things we could be doing on Sunday, Jill, and thank you for taking the time to do this.
You're welcome. Thanks for saying that. I appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
Okay, let's go buy some real estate.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Not on Sunday, but yes.
That's true. Oh, I might. Okay, bye.
Bye. Join us in the next episode where Jill shows us how she doubled her money in 14 days. If you have a question about how to buy property super cheap and sell it for more, let us know at 888-735-5045. Jill and I will try to get your message on the air. Every single month we give away a property for free. No strings, no funny business. It's super simple to qualify. 2 simple steps. Leave us your feedback for this podcast on iTunes. And number 2, get the free ebook at landacademy.com. You don't even have to read it. Now go buy some property.